What you guys are about to hear is going to be one of the most beautiful love stories you've ever heard in your entire life.
He cheated on her. I was the other woman. And
hey guys, welcome to my channel. This is the first of hopefully many videos that I'll be posting on this account. I am so excited. Content creating has always been something that I've loved to do and I've wanted to try, and now I have a lot more free time. So I've decided to really put all my effort and my time into making YouTube videos. If you like commentary videos or diving into current social media trends, then this is the channel for you. Like and subscribe and let me know down below what other kind of videos you want to see. This video is going to be based on a 28-part story time by the TikToker Onyeka Ehie and her relationship and what went wrong and just the craziness of it all. It's genuinely one of the most insane stories I think I've ever seen on TikTok. It was so interesting and also like so heartbreaking, and I've been talking to all my friends about it and I'm excited to share it with you guys. Onyeka's account was actually originally a couple's account between her and her partner that she talks about in this 28-part storyline. Onyeka is Nigerian and she lives in Dallas, Texas. When her and her friend decide to go on a trip to have robbed Croatia, she meets the man who she thinks is going to be the man of her dreams.
And I look up and I see this very attractive man. And the first thing that came to my mind was, this man looks like he is walking straight out of a Calvin Klein ad. And I'm telling you guys, 6'3", blonde hair, blue eyes, chiseled skin, so tan, muscles everywhere.
She describes him as tall, chiseled, handsome. She's clearly very attracted to him, and even speaking from now, after everything she's been through, she still has a very positive tone when describing their meeting and the beginning of the relationship. They just seem to click really well, and I think she really truly thought she had met her person. In the story time, she refers to him as her ex, so I'm just going to consider him the ex when I'm talking about him. She finds out that he's originally from Denmark. He currently lives in Copenhagen, but he's from the town of Aalborg. I'm sorry for pronouncing any of these words wrong. I'm so bad at pronouncing, but I'm pretty sure that was right. They're having small talk, becoming friends, talking about their jobs. They actually find out that they have very similar jobs. Onyeka is from a tech real estate job and he is as well. And so they have that in common. They have a lot of like morals in common. They just find themselves getting along. They're in a new country. They're having vacation. It's easy to get along with someone when you're in an amazing place. When she sees this hot guy, he's with a friend as well. So it was her and her friend and this guy and a friend. So they were in a big group setting just talking.
And obviously I'm trying to be a little sly, so I asked him and his friend for their Instagrams, and we exchange Instagrams. We get into our taxi to go back to our Airbnb, and we're literally en route to our Airbnb, and I get a DM from him, and he basically said, "It was so nice meeting you. Have fun at Dalmatino. Maybe we'll see you guys later." Didn't read anything into it. I just was like, it was fun to just have a conversation with a cute guy.
Onyeka and her friend decided they're gonna go to dinner, and it's the same place they had talked about originally. And as they're finishing up and leaving, the ex and his friend actually come into the restaurant.
And they walk up over to us and I'm like, "Oh, hey." He's like, "Yeah, like they're a little booked up, but they said they can like seat us in like 20 minutes. I was like, "Oh, cool. Well, we're about to be done, but you know, we'll go grab a drink. Maybe we can like meet up later." And he said, "Okay, sounds good."
And as they're at this bar, Onyeka asks the ex's friend what the ex's type is.
And I come up with this idea to play this game where I'm asking his best friend to describe what my ex's type was. And because we were obviously like vibing with each other, and I was just curious. And so his best friend starts listing off everything, like good morals, hard worker, all these things. And like, I felt like he was describing me. And after his friend was done talking, my best friend basically said, you know, aside from being a good cook, she checks off every single box. And I remember I looked at him, my ex, and I said, "But I will become a great cook for a good man."
And as they're heading home, they briefly mention how they want to go to South Africa.
I've always dreamt of going to South Africa, and I jokingly was like, "Well, you're invited if you want to come." And so whenever he made that comment to me in the DM, I was like, okay, sure. I am not thinking anything of it, right? At this point, whatever, like this guy lives 5,000 miles away from me. I'm not thinking anything of it.
Again, they've only known each other for like a couple of days at this point. They don't even have phone numbers yet. They're just going through Instagram DMs, DMing each other back and forth, but they're still, you know, starting conversations. She's still interested, but in the back of her mind, the thing she says a lot in this story is, "I just didn't read into it," or "I just didn't think into it." They keep chatting even as they head back and back into their own world. And he brings up how he will pay to fly her out to Ibiza to see him. She's going on a work trip, and he was like, "Yeah, you know, you should come." And she ends up saying that, you know, she's not gonna come. She's busy. She has stuff to do. During this time on the vacation, he is liking every single Instagram story, responding, like, and I thought it was funny how she was like, "I just didn't read much into it," because obviously if a guy is liking every story, responding, he's obviously interested, unless he's just completely off base and that's his way of being friendly. They start talking more frequently. They start calling for hours and hours and hours. And Onyeka describes this as like when she fell in love with him. Like they fell in love over the phone because they would just talk for hours each day. It was what she looked forward to. It was like her comfort at the end of a long day. And they were talking about relationships. And she mentioned that she really hadn't had a serious relationship before. And he revealed that he actually had a serious long-term relationship.
I asked him, like, what's your history with your dating? And he was like, yeah, well, I actually was in a relationship with a girl. We were together for about 4 years, and I actually broke up with her about 4 months before I met you.
So as we're talking about, family, and Onyeka is saying like family is very important to her, she learns that he actually has a pretty big family, but he actually doesn't talk to his older sister. He says his older sister is like physically and verbally abusive to his mom, and that like he just cut her out of his life, but that he's close to his sister and his mom. So back to the whole Morocco thing, he offers to fly her out to Morocco, and between her saying yes to being flown out to Morocco and when they left, it's only been a month. So they've only been talking for a little bit over a month at this point, and they decide that they're gonna go to Morocco together. So during this time, before they leave for Morocco, he tells Onyeka that if they get married, she will meet the queen one day.
If we ever end up getting married, you're gonna meet the queen. And I remember just like laughing at that comment. And he said, no, I'm being serious. And I said, what do you mean I'll meet the queen? And
he says that his family actually has a royal title called the Order of the Elephants. And she thinks that's awesome, that's super cool, a very unique thing. So then she decides to head out to Monaco. She takes her flight, she gets to the airport, and just describes their meeting as just like electric.
So I walk out of baggage claim and I'm scanning the scene and I see him. And everything in me feels peace and joy. And I just make a beeline to him. Like, it's one of those, like, I'm walking, but like low-key I'm running. And I finally get to him. He hugs me, but like he picks me off the ground and he's hugging me and I'm hugging him back. And then he puts me down and he looks at me, he goes, hi, Bambi. And that was a nickname he used to call me.
They see each other across the airport and they like run to each other and they're just like hugging and like making out in the middle of an airport. And he calls her Bambi. That's her nickname. His nickname for her is Bambi, which I think is funny because this whole story gives like deer in headlights. But so just very relieved to see him, excited, and they decide to go out to dinner. And while they're at this dinner, they're talking about like life, family, what's important, how much they missed each other. And she gets like very emotional during this dinner and ends up telling the ex that she loves him at this dinner.
Man, if a man is going to treat his family with respect, the chances of him treating your family with respect are so much higher. And I just felt like I saw his heart, and it just made me just fall for him even more than I had already. And I guess my thoughts had translated to my face because he picked up on some expression and he was like, what is it? And I was like, nothing. He said, tell me. I go, nothing. And then he grabs my face and he pulls it close to him. He goes, tell me. And I say, I'm in love with you.
And he ends up saying, like, I don't want to say it back. I want to save it for a special moment.
And he's just sitting there smiling and he's like, this is like one of the best nights of my life. And he looked at me and goes, I want to say it back to you, but I also want to have my own special moment, so I'm not gonna do it right now.
Which, okay, that's fine. This whole story is it's a very rushed timeline. So everything happens very, very fast. So after they go to dinner, he ends up taking her shopping for the rest of the week. And so she talks about how she was gonna get a purse, but then decided not to because she didn't want to seem like a gold digger, which is so funny in like hindsight, knowing what's coming, that she was worried about looking like a gold digger.
But I felt so uncomfortable because I don't want this man to think that I'm with him for his money. And I didn't want him to feel like I was using him.
So the next day or next 2 days, they go to dinner, and at this dinner, she actually runs to the bathroom and falls and hits her head and has seizures, like starts having a seizure on the bathroom floor.
And so later that night, we decide to go to dinner, and we're eating dinner, and I go to the bathroom, and I have myself a fall going to the bathroom, going up the stairs, and everything went black.
And like he's there when she wakes up and he's like, have you ever had epilepsy before? And she's like, no, never. Like I've never had anything like this happen before. And so obviously they call an ambulance, they bring her to the hospital. And while she's freaking out in this hospital, because this is like right after COVID, there's a lot of COVID restrictions. It's busy, it's in a new country. She's like feeling nervous. In the middle of this chaos, this is when he decides to say, I love you. So a little while later, they're talking again about life, and he brings up how he wants to make an offer on an apartment.
And he says, hey, I'm considering offering on this apartment complex in Copenhagen. And we had talked about his real estate investments back in the south of France. He had told me that he owned 3 apartments in Copenhagen, 2 of which were rented out, one of which he was occupying as his personal residence. And this apartment complex he was interested in had 34 units. And then there was a top floor that was unfinished and it could be converted to 10 penthouses. And he said, it's fully rented out. It would be such a great investment. The cash flow is great.
And so, you know, she's supportive. She's like, okay, you know, but that's what you want to do. If you think you can make good money with it, go right ahead. She has no reason to think otherwise because so far he's shown that he's pretty much financially responsible. And also he's paid for everything so far. The trip, the food. She said she's paid like maybe like $7 in total on anything with him so far. Like he has paid mostly. So in her eyes, he's very financially responsible. She's gonna let him do what he wants to do. The next big moment is when he decides to come down to Dallas and visit her because obviously he's not visited her yet. They've only gone to vacations together. So he flies in from Denmark and goes all the way to Dallas to see her and ends up going out to brunch and meets all of her friends. While they're at brunch, she overhears him tell her cousin, who's very close. They're like very close. It's more like I feel like a brother-sister relationship than a cousin relationship. But tells Onyeka's cousin that he actually has been to the Olympics twice.
And I hear my cousin ask him, you just have the build of an athlete. Did you play sports? And my ex goes, yeah, I actually played handball. And my cousin goes, isn't that an Olympic sport? And my ex goes, yeah, I actually went to the Olympics twice. And I immediately inserted myself into the conversation. I go, you went to the Olympics? What? And he goes, you know what? I was like the backup of the backup. I didn't even play. I don't like to brag about it because I don't think it's that big of a deal. I was like, well, did you get medals? He was like, yeah, I got a bronze and I got a gold. I was like, well, that's amazing. Like, I'm so impressed. And so
again, he was fully paying for these first couple of weeks of dates, of trips. So at that point, a month or so has passed. And it's like mid-October now, and they're talking about their future and what they want to do.
And he said, you know, we need to start having the hard conversations on like what we want for the future. And I said, absolutely. And so he was like, you know, we need to decide whether or not we're going to live in Denmark or live in Dallas. And I still can't believe this came out of my mouth, but I told him, I said, listen, I know you already have like a very much established career. And so if you want me to move to Denmark, I'm more than happy to have that conversation with you and like discuss it. And he said, you know, looking at you with your friends and your family this past week has made me realize that I don't want to take that away from you.
The ex is not a US citizen, so he would have to get his green card in order to live in the US permanently. So again, this is October of 2022 at this point, and he tells her that he's gonna be coming in on a Wednesday.
Remember, so now we're in the middle of October of 2022. He books his flight and he said, okay, I'm coming next week, Wednesday. And I said, okay, perfect. And I'm getting all excited again. And so I called him Friday morning, and keep in mind that there's a time difference. So it's like about 7 hours. So whenever I wake up at like 5 or 6, he's basically halfway through his day. And so I called him that Friday and I said, hey, like, how's your day been? He's like, it's been such a stressful, intense day. I go, what happened? He's like, I found out that the apartment complex that I bought is dealing with some major foundation issues. Like, it could affect safety of the tenants, and I'm really stressing out and I need to get it fixed. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, did you schedule the repair? He's like, not yet. It's going to cost like a hefty chunk of change. I was like, how much is it going to cost? He's like, $50,000. I was like, $50,000? What? Like, that's obviously a lot of money. I'm sure it's a lot of money to a lot of you. It's a lot of money to me. And so I was like, okay, like, what's the plan? He's like, I mean, I have a good portion of it, so I just need to ask my dad for a little bit of a loan. And so I remember being like, I can never in a million years ask my dad for a loan of $50,000. So at this point, I was aware of the fact that like they had this royal title, they had this family trust that like, and like the family had money. I didn't really know like how much or the details behind it, but he told me he was gonna call his dad and ask him for a loan. So a couple hours go by, he calls me, and he's really upset. He's like, I talked to my dad on the phone. He will not loan me the money. He says, I've been acting super irresponsible, traveling, doing all these things. And so he just doesn't want to, he thinks I need to like learn from my actions. And if I'm not prepared for something like this, then there's nothing he can do to help me. And a couple days go by and he's communicating that he's still stressed out about coming up with this money. And so I said, you know what? Like, I can loan you the money. And so at this point, I had paid off my student loans, paid off my car, bought a house. Like, had a decent savings. I was in a really, really good financial position. And he goes, I would never in a million years borrow money for you. And I was like, it's okay. Like, I don't mind helping. He's like, that's like not even a discussion I want to have. And I said, okay, that's fine. So a couple of days go by and he's still stressing out about coming up with this money. I asked him, like, how much do you need? He's like, it's 10,000 I need. And I was like, again, like, let me loan it to you. He said, no, I'm not taking money from you. And then a couple of days go by and he says, okay, like, now I need 6K. And I was like, okay, again, let me give it to you. He's like, no, I still don't want to take money from you. And then basically, like, the day, like 2 days before he's supposed to come to Dallas, he tells me, he says, just letting you know, I'm not be able to come to Dallas because I need to figure out this issue. And I'm, at this point, I start freaking out because I'm like, no, like, I 100% like want you to come still. Just let me loan you the money so that you'll be fine and we can, you know, be happy and be together. And so after some thinking, he was like, okay, fine, I will borrow the money from you, but you have to promise me that this will be the only time and that you're 100% comfortable with giving me this money. And I said, absolutely, I'm 100% comfortable.
So he comes down, they have a good couple days together, and while he's down, he mentions that he's been having extreme back pain. And that, like, it's just, he's hurting, he's in pain. And so she said she was giving him massages and helping him, like, find comfortable places to relax and showing him stretches. Like, she was really trying to be supportive of him. And he stays for about a week and then heads back up to Denmark. And while he's in Denmark, multiple really horrible events happen. His uncle finds out he's sick with cancer. His dad is hospitalized with blood poisoning. His back pain becomes very extreme, and it's like everything falls apart. And then in November of 2022, he comes back to Dallas to visit and visits her family for Thanksgiving. And Onyeka's parents like loved him. And at Thanksgiving, he talks to Onyeka's parents about how he was in the Olympics and donated his medals to charity. And so Onyeka is like, you know, I found this awesome guy. He's handsome, he's sweet, he's smart, he's financially responsible, he's humble, you know, he's caring. And Onyeka's parents are very happy for her. You know, they're supportive of her and her relationship because they see that she's being treated well. They also discussed during Thanksgiving how Onyeka's grandmother has unfortunately passed away and how they're going to go visit her burial in Nigeria. There's going to be a big family thing. And he kind of invites himself. I don't know if it's just maybe the way she told the story, but it kind of seemed like he was just like, I'll go too. I know you guys want me there.
And he was talking to us about the plans for the burial. And so he said, we're going to do the burial in May. It's going to be in the village in Nigeria. And he looks at my dad and he says, I'll be there. And I remember looking at him like...
Shortly after, they talk about, you know, my family loves you. This is going so great. And they just basically are like, we want to marry each other. And they go ring shopping. Again, less than like, this has been like 3 or 4 months and they're going ring shopping together.
It's like, I have a question, like, do you have an idea of what ring you would want? And I was like, I mean, I have some ideas, but I have not thought about it really extensively. And so he said, what are your thoughts on us going ring shopping? And keep in mind, at this point, we've been dating for like 4 months, 3-4 months. And so I was like, okay, let's do it. So we found a jeweler, we went and we tried on some rings.
So the next big event that happens is Christmas. And this is a really weird event. So Onyeka's parents were going to go travel for Christmas. So the plan was to go with the ex to meet his family because she's met his family yet in Denmark. But then right before like Christmas, he ends up being like, actually, no, never mind. You can't come because he's not feeling well anymore. And his doctor has told him that he needs surgery. And so she's like, oh my goodness, like, I'll come support you. And he's like, no, like, you can't come. Like, no. And she's like, well, I can. I am your girlfriend. Like, what? And so then she's suspicious that maybe he hasn't told his family yet. And he's like, no, I've told my family, but I don't want them to meet you while I'm not there because he says that his family does not speak fluent English. So he doesn't want them to have to like Google Translate and have a weird language barrier. Like he wants to be there to be able to introduce them, help them like kind of bridge that language barrier, which makes sense. And so he's like, I would rather you meet him on another time. And obviously she's very disappointed because now where she's going to spend Christmas. So one of her friends ends up telling her, hey, come up to New York. We can spend, you know, Christmas in New York together and have a great time. And so she's like, you know what? Yeah, I'll go to New York. So she decides she's going to go to New York. But right as they're figuring that out, he ends up calling her and saying like, hey, like, I still want to see you. Like, I miss you. And so they decide that she is going to spend Christmas with her friend in New York. And then later in December, she's going to go up to Denmark and like fly in and see him and meet his family. And so that's the plan. And then again, right before, as we're getting closer to Christmas, he calls and is like, hey, my dad is sick again and I think it's leukemia. Like, I'm not sure if you can come anymore. Obviously, like if he's in the hospital, we don't want you here while he's in the hospital. You can't really meet him. It's gonna be a stressful time. So she's on standby. She's not really sure what's going on. If she's going to spend all December in New York, what she's doing, if she's going back to Dallas. So on the 23rd of December, she ends up getting a call from the ex saying, hey, by the way, me and my sister got in a huge fight.
He sends me a message. I think it's on December 23rd. He sends me a message and he says, I'm so angry. I just got into a fight with my sister. And maybe like 5 minutes later, he gives me a call and I'm like, what happened? He said, we're sitting in the hospital room and my dad is obviously laying in the bed and my older sister looks to me and says, so where are you spending Christmas? And I said, not with you, bitch. And it turned into a huge fight. They start screaming at each other in the hospital. He storms out. He feels so disrespected. His mom's upset. His little sister's upset because like, you know, they're already spending some of their holidays in the hospital. And like now like they have all this tension in the family. And so I remember just being like so confused as to like why his sister is like this awful person. Like why is she treating you like this, especially at a time when your dad is not doing okay?
And he says, I don't want to do that. I want to go somewhere else. Like, let's travel. Let's go do something for Christmas. So on the 27th, they decide to meet up in Paris and go on a vacation in Paris. And originally he's like, well, I'll fly you out. But then he ends up being like, oh, I actually don't have the money right now. So she's like, I got you. She's like, I'll cover it. I'll cover the dinner. It's like, you've done the other vacations. Like, I can do this one. It's you know, 50-50 relationship. I'll also pay for it. So at this point in their relationship, they decided that they are really serious about each other and that they want to pursue getting him a green card one day. They want him to be able to live in Dallas with her one day. And so they decided to contact an immigration attorney.
And he asked me, what are your thoughts on us meeting with an immigration attorney just to get an idea of what the process entails? And I said, absolutely, I would love to do that. Obviously, I had Googled and looked into a few things, but nothing concrete. At the time, one of my best friends was working part-time for immigration attorneys. So I reached out to her. I said, hey, can I get her contact information? And she said, yeah, of course. She gives me her contact information and I call her. We set up a meeting.
The immigration attorney basically tells them that from the day that they get married, because of COVID and the backup from COVID, they won't get their green card till 18 months after they apply. So they're like, we need to get married ASAP because 18 months after whenever we get married in a year, that's a year plus 18 months. So the plan is to get married ASAP. But they don't want to have a bunch of houses in different spots. So he decides he's going to sell his house in Denmark by the end of January. The money that he'll make from that will go towards paying off his debt. Like he owes Onyeka $5,000, $6,000 at this point. And so that was the plan. However, the house ends up having problems. And in order to sell the house, he's going to need $5,000. And obviously Onyeka is like, I want you to be here. I want you to get immigration, but she's already given him money. But he's like, oh, but I won't be able to get my green card. It'll push back. You know, we won't get married as fast. So Onyeka decides to give him the $5,000 for the repairs that he needs so that he can sell this house and so that he can get the money. And then from the money that he would make, he'd be able to pay back the now $11,000 that he owes her.
And everything seemed like it was going smooth. And then one day he calls me and he tells me that he's had the worst day ever. And I'm like, oh, now what? He's frantic. He's like, there's a fire in the control room, the electrical control room at the apartment complex that he bought. And he's just like, I don't know what to do. He's like, there's no power. Like no one has power. He's like, I just paid this guy $2,000 to bring generators to power up the whole entire apartment. I have an electrician coming. And he's like freaking out. And he basically used all of his money he had to put towards like the generators and paying the electrician for as much work as they could do. And I was like, okay, like what now? And he was like, I need help. At this point, he has now asked me for help. He said, can you send me $5,000? And I said, yeah, of course, I can help you. Again, love is a powerful drug.
So they get their marriage certificate and they actually get married on February 10th. And it's funny, she talks about how the night before, he actually got food poisoning before the wedding and proposed to her the night before with food poisoning in their room, no ring, and was like, hey, I know this is not your dream proposal, but like one day I'll give it to you, like right now, like I want to be with you forever, you know, typical proposal stuff. And she says yes. The next day they fully sign their certificate and now they're officially married. He ends up staying a week after the wedding and then heads back to Denmark to deal with all the stuff with his house that he's currently trying to sell. He ends up saying that the house is sold and he says that he's setting up 2 transfers. One transfer is going to go to one of his friends for an investment and the other one is going to be going to her. So she is assuming that right now, within the next couple days, she'll be getting an $11,000 transfer for what he currently owes her.
So he calls me and he tells me that he's had the worst news that he possibly could have. The IRS has told him that he owes $318,000 in taxes. In addition to that, his dad owes $12 million in taxes.
And he basically says that he thinks whoever's been doing their taxes is basically like fraud. Like there's some sort of tax fraud scheme going on, and he thinks that their family's been a victim of that. And so he's like, I'm gonna get someone to investigate it. We're gonna find out. But as soon as they get it figured out, he thinks that they'll be fine, that they'll get their money figured out. Because he says they've been paying a lot in taxes already. So there shouldn't be a lot of taxes anyways. And so even after selling like all his fancy watches, he's still missing $30,000. And he ends up borrowing $10,000 from one friend and $5,000 from another friend. And then he's like, I don't have this $15,000. I'm bummed out. And at this point, you kind of start to see where he's being a bit manipulative, because she's like, hey, I can't pay $15,000. Like I'm already dipping into my savings right now. I cannot pay $15,000 for this tax thing. And he's like, oh, that's just too bad, because it's if they look at me for a green card, but I have $30,000 worth of debt, like I'll never get my green card. Now, obviously she wants her husband to get his green card, so she ends up forking up $15,000 so that he can pay off his $318,000 for the tax. At this point, Onyeka has opened up to her friends and family about how he is struggling with like taxes and like debt and stuff like that, but has not said that she is the one helping him with that. Like she's not mentioned that she is paying, because he's basically has told her like, hey, if you say this, like they're gonna look at me differently. Like I don't want them to look at me differently. And so she is trying to be supportive and doesn't want them to think that her husband is incapable of providing. And at this point, I don't even think anybody really knew they were married. I think people just knew that they were dating, because they talk about how later they announce it. So 5 days later, he ends up flying to Dallas to visit, and while he's there on the flight, he finds out that the friend who loaned him money, like the $5,000 I think, actually needs money for a house. Like he needs it now. And so he's like, I feel so bad. If I had known he needed this money, I would have never asked for it. What am I going to do? I can't pay him back now. And so Onyeka, because she feels bad for her friend, she doesn't want to see him suffer, she ends up forking over another $3,000 to the ex. And the ex is supposed to give it to this guy trying to buy this house.
Do something so stupid and idiotic, I end up loaning him an additional $3K, not even a week after I had already given him $15K. So I actually ended up giving him $18,000 in the month of March of 2023. Yes, I'm sick to my stomach.
Now he owes her like $14,000. No. Yeah, like $14,000 that this man currently owes her. At this time, she also notices that every time she posts about him on her social media, that a bunch of Danish people are watching her story, and she says that she knows because they have a different alphabet, and so she'll see usernames with those alphabet letters, and she'll be like, like I don't have any connections to Denmark besides my husband. Why are random people like seeing my story? They're not commenting, they're not liking, they're not following, but it's the same people always watching the story. And a couple of them have like a mutual following with her ex, but her ex says, oh, they were such a toxic group, like, you probably should block them because they're just like, they're drama starters. So she's like, if you want me to block them, I'll block them. And so then she ends up blocking them and, doesn't have to deal with that anymore. This is the part where we're getting to a lot of the trips. There's so many trips that happen, but the biggest trips is that they fly out to Denmark to finally meet his family. And she remembers saying that, like, it doesn't seem like he had a very close relationship with his family. Like, the way he described it, it seemed like they would be close. Like, it seemed like they were calling a lot and talking a lot. But in reality, he didn't really speak much with his dad. His sister, his younger sister, didn't seem close. Nobody spoke about the older sister at all. And the only one that seemed close was the mom. The mom and the ex seemed pretty close. So she was happy about that because she wants whoever she marries one day, or I guess she is married, but she wants the person that she's married to have a close relationship with their parents. During this time, he informed her that the tax issues have been solved and that he should get his money back soon and pay her back. And she's very happy, at this point, she's trusting him, he'll pay her back. He just needs to get the transfer. However, the next big issue happens, which is he needs to have money to put in escrow.
Part 11. Okay, so he tells me that his realtor has found a buyer for this apartment complex, and there's one caveat. So apparently it's a very wealthy family. He did not know who this wealthy family was, but this family, the way they draft up the contracts, whenever they have to buy a property for tax purposes, and there's like a certain cutoff for when they need to acquire a property, they have like their own contract drafted up that basically requires the buyer and the seller to put money into escrow, so that if
the seller changes their mind of selling the house, they get liquidated damages. Basically, make sure the deal goes through.
He says he needs to put the money he got back from taxes into escrow. But once they buy the house, he can take the money out of escrow and give it to her. So again, he's like, you know, you're gonna get your money soon, but I have to do something else first. However, he needs $20,000. This has to be $120,000, and he only has $100,000 right now to put into escrow. And for her, it's like, well, if he doesn't get the money, he can't sell his house, which means he can't pay her back. He can't move to the U.S. He can't get his green card. So it's starting to add up that his financial decisions are starting to kind of pile on top of her.
Watches to a store to see if he can get it sold within 24 hours. Obviously, that might be kind of difficult. And so at this point, he's like, how much money do you have? And I was like, I really don't have a whole lot of money to give you. So I remember I gave him like a small amount, maybe like $3,000, because I wanted to make sure I had enough money for like bills and miscellaneous. And I just wanted to have a little bit of cushion.
And she's like, my savings are dwindled. Like she's not been able to focus on real estate. She's been traveling. She's been with family. Like she's not been able to make a substantial amount of money, like enough to refill her savings. And she's like kind of reaching the end of it. And so she gives him $3,000. She's just like, that's all I can give you. You know, yeah, that's what we can get. During this time, he also decides that he wants to go on a trip. And when she says like, hey, with what money? He literally tells her to like use her credit cards, like to rack up debt basically, so they can go on a trip, which is insane. Like to be at a point where you're having to like borrow so much money from your girlfriend and now making your put money on credit cards so you can go on a trip. And obviously she seems like she likes to go on trips, but obviously this is not the time to go on a trip. Like they're both financially struggling. Like this is not trip time. And again, like the cherry on top of all of this is the fact that she's like very stressed out and very stressed out by her job right now. And so he literally tells her, quit your job, like quit it right now. And I'll pay for you. You don't have to work ever again. Like I'll make sure you're provided for forever. And so she quits her $150,000 a year job because she's like, he's gonna take care of me. Even though they're not in a great financial situation. And so far he's not made some great financial choices. She quits her job. And now it's just him bringing in money besides the couple things she makes for real estate. During this time, the IRS of Denmark ends up flagging the transaction from the apartment. And so all that money gets put on hold, basically. Like, they can't touch it, nothing. So this money that she's expecting to hit her account now cannot be touched.
And I remember we're at his parents' house, and he comes to me, he's like, hey, I just got off the phone with the IRS, and they said they flagged the transaction from the apartment complex. And at first, I'm like pissed. I'm like, I asked you if this was going to be a problem. He's like, it's not going to be a problem. They're probably just going to take out like some taxes, not the full amount. They just need to review it, and then we'll figure it out. But I'm not concerned. You shouldn't be concerned either, even though I was super concerned. He said they set a hearing date for September 10th. At this point, it's the middle of August. So I'm like, okay, so now I have to be struggling for another month.
And she ends up flying back to Dallas by herself, and he stays in Denmark. When his accounts were flagged by the IRS of Denmark, they flagged his personal and his business account. His business account is the one that has like apparently like $10 million, like a crazy amount of money in it. And his personal one has a couple $1,000s in it. And the first like hearing is for the personal one. And, you know, they talk, he gets his personal one unflat, is able to transfer $9,000 to Onyeka. So Onyeka has now been paid back $9,000 of the like $14,000 she's currently owed. Unfortunately, after December of 2023, the ex's dad starts struggling again and ends up going back to the hospital. And so she decides to head over to support him. And at this point, they're struggling financially. Like, they're struggling. And they're traveling so much, they're not able to work as much, and they're overspending. And there's this money that they're supposed to be getting that's just being frozen, or it's not moving, or it can't be transported, or it's just disappearing. And at this point, she's like kind of getting fed up with it. She's kind of starting to get a little bit suspicious, but at the same time, this is her husband. She's thinking, you know, he loves me, he would never do something like this to me. It's gotta be a big misunderstanding. And then the next big ball drops, and he tells her that he's been charged with an insurance payment and has been drained again financially. Like, his money's gone all over again. During this time in Denmark, they actually meet up with some of his old friends and the ex's old friends. And while they're there, one of the ex's friends brings up to Onyeka how the ex used to have like a crippling gambling addiction. Like,
you guys should come out tonight, like please come out. And I was like, honestly, I'm down to go out, but my ex doesn't want to go out. And that was really weird for him because he always is down to like go out and have a good time. So I already thought it was a little strange. And then his best friend looks at me, he goes, oh, he probably doesn't want to run into any of his enemies from his past gambling addiction.
Like, he used to owe this friend money. Like, it was bad. He was borrowing from a lot of people. Like, it was just like a very, 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 very toxic, like basically an addiction to gambling. And Onyeka is like, well, I didn't know about this. Like, nobody told me this. And the friend is like, that's weird because the ex said that he told you. Like, he said that you knew. So now Onyeka is frustrated and mad. And so she ends up confronting him. And they end up having their first, like, big argument. Like, a big blowout argument where she's like, you're lying to me. And he's like, I'm not lying. I just, I just didn't want to, like, share that. But, like, I don't gamble anymore. That's been my past. I don't even think about it. Yada, yada, yada. But now Onyeka is starting to wonder if the reason why this money keeps getting held up or, money's not getting put where it should be is because there could be an issue with gambling. And he's saying, like, it was 10 years ago, this is my past. And they're just, like, fighting. They're arguing. He's leaving the apartment or the hotel. She's frustrated. It's a big blow-up argument over this gambling addiction. She's heading back to Dallas, and he ends up having his next hearing for the business account. And at this hearing, they put an 18-month hold on his funds, so he can't touch his funds for 18 months. And obviously, this is a very big, frustrating situation. And on their anniversary, they decided to go out and get a nice dinner. And they currently are struggling financially. She doesn't have a job. They're in a good amount of debt at this point. They're still traveling too frequently for the amount of money that they're making. And the only money that they have is currently being held in an 18-month hold. And on their anniversary, he decides to spend an insane amount of money on dinner, on alcohol, and he's buying everyone shots. They go to a friend's birthday party after, and he's buying shots for everybody. He's drinking multiple drinks, and she says he wasn't a big drinker, but this night he got very, very drunk.
Really weird, because I'm like, we're celebrating our anniversary, and you would think that he just, like, wants to be intentional with our time spending it together, and instead it just feels like he's just slamming these drinks. And I was so confused by why he felt the need to get this drunk. And so he's having a conversation with my friend, and I'm like seeing him, and he's like slurring his words, and then he's talking to my friend, and I see like a little bit of spit come from his mouth and like land on like her shoulder, and she like wiped it away, and I was like, what the fuck is that? That's disgusting. And so he's drank his like third old fashioned, and then I look up and he's ordering another one, and I look at him, I say, are you sure you should order another drink? And he looks at me, he goes, who do you think you are to tell me when what I can and can't drink? And I said, excuse me, I'm just saying, do you need to have another drink? Like, do we need to get belligerent tonight?
He blows up at her, and they're fighting again, and they're arguing, and he's like, I'm going home, I'm walking home. He leaves their home, leaves their hotel or whatever they were staying at the time. He goes to another hotel, grabs his stuff, and moves into a hotel. So, like, he's fully left. He's paying every night for this hotel, even though they have a place to stay already. And so she's frustrated because she's like, we don't have this kind of money to be spending on a hotel just because we're upset at each other. So after the fight, they make up. They're working towards a stronger relationship, better communication. And as they're repairing their relationship, Onyeka gets a call from her friend.
So a couple days go by, and I get a message from one of my really, really good girlfriends, and she says, hey, I've been wanting to reach out to you for some time, but did you know that your ex owes my husband $200,000? And I remember I was like eating lunch. I was next to my ex, I was eating lunch, and I'm just like, I read this message, and I couldn't breathe. Like, I literally could not breathe. And I look at him and I go, what the fuck is this?
And Onyeka is very much clear in this story time that she is not a fan of like borrowing from friends. Like, she does not want to be in debt to her friends. She does not want to put her friends and family in a position where they have to support her financially. Like, she likes to be independent, and if she's going to borrow from somebody, they're going to be paid back as soon as possible. So she's freaking out. She's like, what do you mean he owes $200,000? And Onyeka asks her husband, like, what do you mean? And he says that he bought a bunch of money in watches, and the watch is already sold, and he's waiting for the money to transfer to him. Is basically what he says it as. So again, it's another case of the money isn't moved over yet, the money isn't transferred yet. And so she calls or texts her friend and is like, is this true? And the friend's like, no, that's not true at all. And in the story, she calls them Crypto and Crypto's wife. Crypto's wife is the friend, and Crypto is the one that he owes $200,000 to. And he told them that he had a private investigator look into the crypto wallet where this whole deal was going down.
And just so you know, I had someone look into the wallet that I sent money to, and it's been linked to a gambling website since 2023. And that's when I realized that he was gambling. And in that moment, I just fully collapsed to the ground. I remember I was in the kitchen, and it was like I couldn't even stand anymore. Like, I just collapsed to the ground, and I'm just like crying. He's like, what is it? I'm like, you're lying to me, you're gambling. He was like, no, I'm not, like, still lying. And I'm just like, just tell me the truth. Be honest with me. For once in your life, tell me the truth. And he's like, I promise you, I'm not gambling. And then I grab his face and I pull it to me, and I scream in his face. I said, tell me the fucking truth. And he looks at me, he goes, okay, I'm gambling. And honestly, I was just quiet.
Again, they got together in 2022. So since they started dating, he is now gambling. At this point, Onyeka is like done. She is so frustrated. She can't believe he would lie to her. He's so mad. And she decides that she is going to take this into her own hands, and she's going to confront him about this and figure out what's the truth. Before that, Crypto decides that he is going to hire a private investigator to look into his backstory. He's like, if you want me to, I'll pay for it. I'll have it done. He'll look into his past, his history to see what's going on. And so she's like, yeah, do it. Have someone look into his background. Basically, the main thing that he finds is that he didn't actually go to the Olympics. Which, and knowing what we know, what happens, the fact that the only thing that he found is that he didn't go to the Olympics is crazy. Because so much comes out that the only thing he found was he didn't go to the Olympics. All he had to do was like look up a name and be like, oh, he didn't go to the Olympics. But you found nothing else.
What he found was that my ex did not go to the Olympics, not once and not twice. And when I found this out, I was sick to my stomach. And the first thing that I felt was embarrassment, because like, why did I not look this up?
And so she asks him, like, did you go to the Olympics? And he's like, no, I didn't. She goes, don't lie to me. I'm asking you, did you go to the Olympics? And he's like, no, I didn't. I went to the Olympics. I told you this. Why don't you believe me? So she says, okay, I'm going to call your mom, and I'm going to ask your mom if this is true. And as she's literally dialing the number for his mom, he's like, okay, but like, okay, I didn't go, okay?
I start looking through our WhatsApp messages and videos, trying to just reflect on all the things that he told me. And I see the photos that he sent me of his apartment in Copenhagen, the one that he had sold a year prior. And so I downloaded the photos, and then I reverse Google image searched them, and it pulled up an interior designer's home in Germany. And that just fully sent me completely, because obviously this is a house that he just purchased and sold and made that $500,000 in profit, and half of it went towards the tax bill and half of it went to his friend's plumbing business. And so I'm just like, this is so sick and disgusting. I can't believe someone would have the audacity to lie about this.
And then he admits that he is like has a gambling addiction, that he's struggling with gambling. And she's obviously heartbroken, she's upset, but she is willing to make it work. She thinks that, this is sickness and health, this is a marriage. She's willing to put in the work if he's willing to put in the work. So he starts going to Gambling Anonymous. He starts to, he's being more open about what he's spending money on. They're not spending as much. They start saving up money. And so she starts thinking this is like the new, like, blossom of their relationship. Like, she's starting to think it's going back to normal. Obviously, there's still a little bit of like distrust, but for the most part, she's making strides. He's making strides. It's looking like they're going to make it past this hard moment, this like little rough patch that they're having. And it's now April of 2024, and they had to sit down with Crypto and Crypto's wife. Crypto? Yeah, it sounds such a funny word. Crypto and Crypto's wife. And basically they decided to set up a payment plan so they can pay back the $2,000 that they currently owe them. And during this time, they're caught up on their payment plan, they're doing good, and decided that they want to go to Colombia. And they go to Colombia, and in Colombia, he officially proposed. Which, again, it's crazy because in the official proposal, he still says, I know this is not your dream proposal.
And I didn't know when it was going to come. And then there was a night that we went to dinner, and then we went out for a drink, and then we came back home. And the hotel we were staying at had a rooftop that was like overlooking the city. And so we went up there with a bottle of wine, and we're just drinking wine and just talking. And I, at that moment, just felt so grateful for him and for his sobriety and for his honesty. And before I know it, I look down and he's down on one knee, and he tells me, I know this isn't your dream proposal, and I know I've let you down a lot, but I will make it up to you, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be the man that you deserve. And
so 2 non-dream proposals now, but he needs to lock into this dream proposal idea, because clearly it's not working. If both of these haven't been her dream proposal, why have you done both of these proposals now at this point? So again, we're in April now of 2024, and Easter happens, and they're celebrating Easter with Onyeka's family. And during Easter, he gets a call that his dad has had an accident, and that he's in the hospital because his heart literally just like stopped beating. And obviously that's scary. They go visit him, and thankfully his heart is doing better. A month or so passes, everything's good. And they decided to go to Panama for Onyeka's 30th birthday.
We traveled to Panama for my 30th birthday, and we were with my sister and my friends and my ex, and he was actually the only guy on this trip, which was 100% unintentional. And we're on our way to Panama, and while we're in the air, obviously my phone's on airplane mode, and we land, and I take the airplane mode off, and I look at my phone, and I have all these calls from his sister and his sister's boyfriend. And so I'm a little bit confused. I open up the messages, and I see that she's saying, you need to call me immediately. Immediately, I was like, oh, something bad's happened. And so I look at my ex, I show him the messages, and obviously he has similar messages as well on his phone when he turns it on. And so he was like, there's nothing we can do. We're sitting on a plane. Let's just get off the plane and then I'll call her. So we get off the plane and we just kind of step aside. He calls her and he's like, okay. And he's talking in Danish. So I don't really understand what's going on. And then he gets off the phone. I was like, what happened? He was like, oh, his heart stopped and they weren't able to resuscitate him. And I was like, what? And I was like, your dad died? And it was the most like uncomfortable position for me because he did not show any emotion at all. And I was like, are you okay? And I just remember just holding his hand. I was like, what can we do? What can I do for you? He's like, honestly, let's just go through customs and let's get to the hotel and then we'll figure it out there. And it was the most bizarre situation ever because it's like his dad's death did not faze him at all.
And so obviously Onyeka is like, oh my goodness, we have to get back to Denmark. We have to be there for the funeral. And the ex is like, the funeral's not for a week, so we can stay here and we can just enjoy the week. Anyways, insane. At this point in the story, she started to notice a lot of red flags, specifically in his behavior. He doesn't have a lot of empathy or emotions, as much as I would expect, especially with his dad passing. He just didn't seem very affected by that. But part of her thought maybe it could be because they didn't have a close relationship. And so they decide to stay for the week, but she says that the whole vacation is kind of awkward. There's this underlying just kind of tension and just sadness about the passing. So they end up going back to Denmark for the funeral, and they spend more time with the older sister. And again, she seems normal. She doesn't seem mean or abusive. She's very confused right now because the sister doesn't seem she has very sweet kids. It's a very weird situation in general. So again, back to the immigration thing. His petition actually gets approved for him to stay in the U.S. So now, while they file, he can stay in the U.S. and get the visa stuff done, which they're excited about. They can finally live together. And him and his mom come to the U.S. and then going to Key West in Miami and having a great weekend. And she actually pays for all of it. The mom pays for everything, which is a very sweet gesture. At this point, Onyeka is also wondering why she hasn't been paid back for all the money that he owes her. So he kind of drops the kind of cash and being like, when am I going to get paid? Because again, all this money that was supposed to be hitting the accounts and all this money that was being transferred, it's never been transferred, and he still owes her money. And while they're still technically married, all their finances are separate. So right now he does owe her money. And so they're sitting in the hotel or condo in Key West, and she looks outside the balcony, and he's on the balcony on his phone on a gambling website.
We're in the living room, and he says he wants to just go on the balcony and get some fresh air. And I start creeping. I walk up to the window, and I'm trying to look over his shoulder at his phone, and he doesn't know I'm looking. And on his phone, I see there's a gambling website, and my stomach is in.
So she confronts him. He's like, why are you on a gambling website? And he's like, oh, I watch sports for free. It's the only place I can watch sports for free. And she's like, I don't believe you. I don't trust you at all. And he's like, if you're never gonna trust me, then why are you even with me? Yada, yada, yada. So now they're fighting again. And she goes through all of his bank statements, and there's nothing suspicious. So she's like, okay, maybe he is just watching for sports. But I don't think she ever truly believed that. I think when she couldn't find any evidence, she was able to kind of put that to rest. But I think she always had a kind of a suspicion that there was something else going on. And again, he's still putting off this whole transfer. He's still being like, yeah, sorry, the money hasn't hit my account yet. And she decides that she's going to she's very starting to kind of really lock in on him and keep an eye on what he's doing in the finances. And when they get back, his work visa has gotten approved, which means he can get a U.S. bank account, and he can also get a social security number, which means that she has a better track of his money now. She can actually, before it was all Denmark bank accounts, but now she can actually see his money. She can actually have an impact. She can have a bigger control. And like she said, if you have a partner with a gambling addiction, the person who doesn't have the gambling addiction needs to be the one in charge of finances. That is very important for them to be very heavily involved because it's a great way to keep your partner accountable. So he ends up signing up for the Chase bank account, and that's the exact same one that Onyeka uses. And so as she's doing this, she's, expecting him to, move all this money that he supposedly has into the bank account. And he says, okay, I made a big transfer. He went to the bank. And when they go to the bank, he's like, oh, you don't have to come in. I'll do this by myself. And so she's like, that's weird. Why can't I come in?
Thinking to myself, you know what? I'm going to play a game. We're going to go to Chase, and I'm going to try to get out of the car and go into the bank with him. If he says, no, you should just wait in the car, I'm going to know he's hiding something. And I really just wanted to see how he would react. So we go to Chase, he gets out of the car, and I start to get out of the car. He's like, oh, I'm just gonna be in and out, babe. You can just wait in the car. And I'm like, red flag. And you know what? I let him do his thing. I let him go inside. I'm like, okay, let's see what he comes back with. So he comes back and he says, hey, I'm able to take out, like, it was like $1,000 he's able to send to me. And he's like, here's like $1,000. I go, at this point, he told me he was going to send me like 5,000. And so I'm like, what's going on? Are you lying? He was like, no, I'm not lying. I was like, well, I'm tired of carrying this relationship on my back and I'm over it. And that was like, this is when I start really standing up for myself and telling him that I'm just done with the bullshit.
And later, she opens his phone, because now he has like a US phone, and he opens the phone, and the first page on Safari is a gambling website. And so she's like, she's obviously mad, and it even shows like what he's betting on, what he could bet on, and she said that he's betting on the most random things, like the most random sports, the most random countries. Like it's just such a weird thing to gamble on. And so she ends up being like, you know what? I'm considering divorce. Like she brings up for the first time, like, I am gonna divorce you if you don't change your behavior.
Right on the counter. And so I was like, you know what? I know the PIN code to his Danish card. I bet it's the same PIN code for his Chase card. And so what I did was I grabbed the key to the car, my friend's car, and I like kind of sneakily snuck out of the house because I didn't want him to hear the garage and be like, where's she going? So I snuck out of the house. I went to Chase and I put his card in, I put in the PIN code and it was accepted. And I clicked the lovely button that said check balance. And what was in his account? 34 cents.
He has 34 cents. And by the way, this man has a confirmed $400,000 a year job. $400,000 a year. And he's 34 cents in his bank account right now. Unless he's spending it on houses and yachts, he's gambling his money away. So 4 months passed by, and now it's like October. Now that was like October 2024, and now they decide that they're gonna get married. Like they've patched up their rough spot. They decide that they want to get married. They want to be together. They want to officially have a wedding with their family, and they want to do one wedding that's more like European, Denmark themed, and one that's more Nigerian. They want to have both cultures, but they don't want like a combined wedding. They want 2 separate weddings, one with Nigerian culture, one with like Danish culture. And the thought process was they were going to pay for the Danish culture like wedding, but a Nigerian wedding can be very expensive, so they were going to have Onyeka's parents pay for it. And randomly the ex tells everybody, no, I'm paying for both actually. And Onyeka's like, we don't have that kind of money. What do you mean? We don't have that money to do both weddings. And so he talked to Onyeka's parents, and they were like, hey, can we pay you in July like $10,000? Like we'll pay for part of the wedding, but we cannot pay the full wedding. And they're like, yeah, sounds good, sounds perfect. The next big milestone is that his green card gets approved. So now he's able to like fully live in the US, work in the US, like he is secure. He is a US citizen now. And obviously they're very excited now that they have the green card. They're like, we want to have a wedding. We want to, we want to do all this fun stuff. So they have they went to a friend's wedding. They were able to see family. They toured wedding venues in Portugal. Like that was all kind of April of 2025. They're kind of just living their best life, experiencing different places. They're having fun. And then in May of 2025, they decided they want to help him build credit. Like he's never had his social security card, so he doesn't have any credit. And so they decide to put him, the ex, on Onyeka's card. It has a 0 balance. So all he has to do is chill on the card and he'll get his, as she pays off, gas here, lunch here. It'll build up his credit.
In May of 2025, we decided that we wanted to build up his credit score so that we could maybe buy a house within the next couple of years. And his credit was basically 0 because he had just moved to the States. And so I had a credit card that we had just paid off. It had a 0 balance. And so I was like, okay, let's add you on this card. And so we added him, and he had no plans to even really use this card. It was just, for me to use for like groceries. We were just really trying to build up his credit. And so I looked at the balance one day and it was super high and I was so confused. And I started going through the details and I saw that there was a cash advance for $7,000. And I was like, what is going on?
She confronts him and he's honest about it. He's honest. He's like, I'm gambling again. And so obviously that's very hard. And Onyeka's obviously, she talks about how hard that was to find out that he had relapsed on gambling again. But in a way, because he admitted to it, she felt like it was different. Like it was, for her, it was like, well, he did it, but he's honest about it now. And I think because he was honest about it, it felt less painful. But in reality, him being honest about it, he's still gambling. He's still making really poor decisions. He also admitted that all the money that he made off of the Rolexes he sold, he gambled away as well. So he's also lost a ton of money for that. In July, finally, the business account that was frozen by the Denmark IRS is finally unlocked. And they thought it only had $2,000 in it, but it actually has $3,000 in it, which, again, he was talking about how he had this like $10 million account at some point. I don't know where that went, but he has a good amount of money in it. And decides to put it all in his Chase account, like move it all to a new bank account. And for some reason, like, he just kept being like, oh, it's not hitting in my account, that's weird. And then, a couple weeks pass, and it's still not hitting, that's so weird. And then beginning of August passes, and he's like, it's still not hitting. And again, they were supposed to pay their parents $10,000 back in July for the wedding, and they haven't been able to pay it. So again, August, the parents are like, hey, where's this money?
Send your parents the money on August 1st after I get paid from my job. But regardless, like, that money is going to hit at some point in August. And I said, okay, that's perfect. So beginning of August comes around, and he tells me, hey, I just sent the money to your mom. And I said, okay, perfect. Can you please show me the screenshot? And he said, yes. And he showed me the screenshot, and it said that the payment was scheduled for August 9th. So August 7th and 8th comes around. I tell my mom, hey, you're going to receive the money by August 9th. And she said, okay, sounds good. So August 9th comes around, and I asked her, hey, have you received it? And she said, no, I still have not received it. And so I was like, okay, that's weird. A couple of days go by, and I'm like, have you received it yet? She said, I still have not received it. So now it's like August 12th, and I'm on FaceTime with my mom just chit-chatting. And then I ask her, I go, hey, have you received the transfer from my ex? And she goes, no, I still haven't received it. And I'm on the couch with my ex, and I look at him, I go, that's so weird. My mom still hasn't received the transfer. And he goes, that is weird. I go, can you pull up the screenshot again? He shows me the screenshot again, and it says that the payment is now scheduled for August 14th. And I'm a little confused, because why is it scheduled for August 14th now? It was August 9th before, and that doesn't make sense. So I asked him, I'm like, that's weird. He goes, that is weird. I don't know what's going on. And so regardless, at this point, it was like August 12th. So I was like, okay, we'll just wait and make sure she gets it by August 14th. So August 14th comes around. I call my mom, hey, did you receive the transfer? She still hasn't received the transfer. And I'm just like, what is going on? This is so weird and bizarre. But I'm not super concerned at this point. I just think that there's something weird going on. So August 15th comes around, and he tells me that he doesn't know what's going on, but what he's going to do is cancel the transaction and then send the 10K to me. And then I will then send the 10K to my mom. And I said, okay, perfect. That sounds good. I'm laying in my bed, and I start playing with the app Revolut, and I start looking at it. And that's the app that he sent the money to my mom. And obviously he sent me screenshots. I sent the screenshot to my mom to verify it's going to be hitting on August 14th. And so I start playing around with the app, and I just, I wanted to see what it would be like if I wanted to send a big payment. And the way Revolut works is you have to load the money into Revolut before you can send it to anyone. So I'm just playing around with it, and I do a test transaction, and I'm trying to send $10,000 even though I don't have 10K in Revolut to send. So I click schedule payment, and I put just whatever date, and I see the next page, which is the review page. And that's when I realized that that was the same screen that he showed me and that I sent to my mom, saying that he sent the payment. And what he did was he cropped out the schedule payment button so it looked like he had sent the money, but he really did not. So I'm just spiraling, and this is a moment where it hits me. I'm like, what if everything's a lie? And
at this point, after finding out that he's lied about this and he's literally like basically scammed their parents out of $10,000 and is just not being honest about the money and is still gambling, it becomes a whole fight. It's the next like two, I would say, like parts of the story time is just them fighting. That they're arguing, they're mad at each other, they're both mad. He's mad for some reason because she's upset, which is crazy to make someone to do something that makes somebody else frustrated and upset with you over and over again, and then be like, why are you mad though? And she starts being like, we need to have an open relationship, but we need to start over, we need to make it open, we need clear communication. And he's like, I'm done. Like, I'm done with the relationship. And she's like, what?
He says, I want a divorce. And at this point, I'm just stunned, because never once has he mentioned leaving me or divorce or anything. So I'm shook at this point. And then he proceeds to tell me, he said, you prioritize your friends and family above me in our relationship. I've never felt like this is my home. I'm a guest in this home. My stuff is in the guest closet. And I'm like, your stuff wouldn't fit in the master closet. Like, it's fine. Like, I'm just sitting here just so confused.
So as they're arguing back and forth, he's like, I'm leaving. Like, he's moved out. He's booking flights, like he's about to leave, and she steals his passport, and it's like, got your passport, like you can't leave now.
Honestly, at that point, just start screaming. And I sent him a text and I said, I have your passport. He said, what the fuck is wrong with you? I go, please come home, babe. You fight for the people you love, and I love you, and we will get through this.
And it's just this argument back and forth of like, I want to leave, but I don't want you to leave, but I want you to leave, but I don't want to leave. It's just this back and forth of like, clearly she is in love with this person, even though this person is not treating her well. She's in love with him. And unfortunately, what she couldn't see now was that once he got what he wanted, he was done. Because he had no use anymore. Once he got everything he wanted, which we'll find out what he wanted.
In the entire thread. Call on your friends and family. You prioritize them, now they can show up for you. And just to be very clear, I do not give a fuck if you tell everybody everything. So here I am telling everybody everything. I realized like now's the time to come clean and tell everybody what's really been going on in our lives. And so my sisters are sitting down next to me, and my best friend Onyeka is also on the couch, and I look at them and I tell them everything about the gambling, about the lies, about the money. And my little sister looks up at me and she says, well, he actually took $3,000 from me. It was the most heartbreaking moment of my entire life. My little sister is like, she's my world, and to know that he took advantage of her was just, it was so heartbreaking. And in that moment, I 100% fell out of love with him. The first person I call is one of my close friends, Chris, and him and his wife, Thea, they're pregnant with their first kid and they're buying their first house. Obviously, money's tight. And I called him and I said, did you give money to my ex? And he goes, yeah, I did. And then I just started crying on the phone. And then I tell him everything that's happening. And it was so heartbreaking because like I had to tell people these things, and then I would be so emotional, so wrecked. And then I would gather myself, and then I would realize that there's another person I have to call. So after I called Chris, I called my friend Rob and asked him, did you loan money to my ex? And he said, yes, I did. And again, I'm crying. He borrowed money from Rob 2 times. Then I messaged him, Chris and Rob too, what the fuck? And he said, you don't have to remind me, I am aware. That's why I need to go back and fix it. And so I get home, I call my dad and I'm telling him, hey, I need to talk to you. He's like, what's going on? I go, he's not coming back. And I proceed to tell him about the addiction, the money, everything. And then I asked my dad, I go, but please tell me he didn't take money from you. And my dad goes, don't worry about that right now.
The cousin that she was really close to lost some money, and like she's the godparent of this cousin's kid. Like this was like her, like I think that was probably one of the hardest things, was like seeing her family get scammed by the person that she loved. He went to treatment like 10 years ago back in Denmark, and the people who were helping him at treatment said that he had the worst gambling addiction they had ever seen in their career.
Yeah, his addiction got really, really bad about 10 years ago. He owed money to some really dangerous people. They actually threw a brick through his parents' window, and they chased his friend through the streets with a knife. And she's a police officer, so she wanted to protect him. So she actually went and met with these like dangerous loan sharks and figured out a payment plan for them. And then my ex got a job in China, and then he moved to Shanghai and didn't pay anyone back. And he owed money to his parents. He owed money to tons of people. I did not know any of this. I just knew he owed money to his best friend at the time, and obviously crypto. So I thought these were like small, obviously not small, it's a large amount of money, but I thought these were isolated incidents. I didn't know that this was a pattern. And she was like, once he moved to China, he was there for like 6 months. And then I started receiving messages from people in China. So he was conning people in China as well.
She's up calling another one of her friends, and he paid $10,000 to this ex, never got the money back. A coworker was also scammed out of $10,000, never got the money back. Like overall, just like he is, any person that was someone related, he was like, I can get money, get money, get money, get money. She also found out that he's never actually owned a single piece of property, ever. So like all the times he talked about like I need this money for this apartment, for this house. Never has owned, ever owned his own piece of property. And after realizing how like insane this man is, she just ends up unblocking the ex that she originally had blocked and finds out that the ex was actually together for 7 years.
And I asked her, I was like, 7 years is a long time. Like, what pushed you to finally leave? She's like, I just like realized he wasn't going to change. And, for a while I knew I should have left him, but I felt like I was just in deep sunk cost fallacy. I feel that too. And then I asked her, I was like, when did you guys break up? They broke up on December 23rd of 2022. So do y'all remember that story about his dad being sick in the hospital and him getting in a fight with his sister and the back surgery and all the bullshit? It was all a lie. He was living with her. They broke up. She left him 4 months after we started dating.
He also had a mentor that was like helping him with his business, and like they would call and like chat, and he ended up scamming him of $30,000 and ended up having the mentor filed a lawsuit against him, and I don't know what has happened with that. But when asked about why the mentor, like she calls the mentor and she's like, hey, like, why did you never tell me, about what was happening? And he literally told her, oh, like, because you're Nigerian and like Nigeria is like the scamming capital. Like I figured you were in on it.
And I asked Michael, why did you bring this up to me? He goes, well, Onyeka, you're Nigerian. Like that's a scamming capital of the world. I didn't know if you were in on it. And that's when the irony hit me. I'm Nigerian and I'm a proud Nigerian. I tell people it's my biggest flex. But the country's not perfect. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses. But one of our weaknesses is that there's a ton of scammers. Versus Denmark, who's considered to be this prestigious, wealthy, happy country. So the fact that a Danish man pulled this over on a Nigerian or Nigerians collectively, it just blew my mind.
I felt bad because I feel like she was like, oh yeah, I guess it's my karma. Like, the Nigerian finally gets scammed. But it's like, no, like, first of all, just because a country has a higher rate of it doesn't mean that everybody in Nigeria scams people. And second of all, she is still a victim of being scammed. Like, I don't know. That part just made me so mad because I feel like she was like, yeah, like, I guess, but like, no, like, that was just cruel. Like, she just told you that the person who she's married has scammed most of her family out of their money and like has left her and abandoned her. And he's like, well, sorry, I thought you were in on it because you're Nigerian. I feel like that was just him trying to be racist. Like, he just wanted to be racist, and he was just like, throw a little sprinkle of racism in right here. So she's decided that, she's never talking to him again. She has removed him from her life, and he still is like actively texting her, sending her voice memos, being like, take me back, like, I'll make it right, yada, 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 which obviously she does not listen to because there's no way to make this right. Like, there's no way. Even if you pay back everything you owe, there is still no way to ever make this right. And he still ends up showing up to her house one day. He, like, flies in, drives to her house, and tries to be like, baby, I missed you. And she literally says she screamed bloody murder, like, at him to leave.
So I look up, I see him, and we make eye contact, and there's one split second where he looks at me, and then he says, hey, babe, can we talk? And then I proceeded to scream bloody murder. And when I say scream bloody murder, I mean people are stopping on the road and they think I'm about to get kidnapped. Bloody murder. And, well, I can demonstrate it for you. Get the fuck away from me! Fuck yes! Fuck yeah! Get the fuck away from me! I'm sorry, guys, I had to do that because I needed you guys to understand what I meant, but, like, times that volume by, like, 100. I was screaming bloody murder.
And that was the last time she ever saw him. So, good for her. I'm very happy for her. In the end, this story is just so heartbreaking because all she wanted was someone that she could love and care for and could love and care for her the same way and be there for her, and he scammed her and her family out of thousands of dollars. Like, it's just horrible, and I can't imagine even being in that situation. Like, I mean, I'm sure she didn't think she'd ever be in that situation, but it's sad, and I'm glad she's out and that she's able to see now, like, the red flags. Like, looking back, I think there is still part of her that probably does romanticize the relationship a bit, but I think as she probably goes maybe through therapy and as she, like, gets older, she'll be able to realize exactly how, like, toxic it was and how toxic the relationship probably was. And I just hope that she has peace. I hope she can find somebody who loves her exactly the way she needs to be loved, and that she never has to deal with any annoying men ever again, because that is genuinely horrible. That is genuinely, like, life-altering trauma. Like, I truly hope that she's able to fully heal from that and be able to trust again, because that would be impossible. That is just so crazy. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. I had so much fun filming it, and this will definitely be something that I will be doing more often. If you want to see more videos, obviously like, subscribe, and if you have any video ideas, I always will take suggestions. You can put it in the comments below. And I'm just thankful if you've watched it all the way through. This video was definitely a chaotic one, but I will get better with this as I go, and I'm just very thankful if you stayed and watched this long. Bye.